Ah yes, the hills are alive with the sound of music, or the sounds of noisy birds. Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf. I hope you're all well. A very great start to the day here. You wouldn't believe it's the height of summer in the UK. Well, you would believe it, of course, because that's the way it is over here. And the heroic Harley has brought me to a beautiful lookout spot. I thought I'd take a bit of scenery in before my day of toil begins. Anyway, I thought I'd give you a little bit of an observation of something that I saw the other day when I was out in the Breaking Bad camper. Now, my channel is not about motorcycle clubs or anything like that. I don't really have any interest in that kind of side of motorcycling, nothing to do with me. However, I am a bit of an observer of it and been around motorcycling for 40 plus years. You kind of see things from time to time. And what I know about YouTube is that it gives a bit of a distorted view of the world. And I emphasize the world because sometimes what happens in a particular country is not relevant elsewhere. Now on YouTube, there are lots of channels talking about motorcycle club stuff, protocols and how to do this and how to do that. One of the ones that I kind of watch occasionally is actually from a British channel, and the guy's called Dibber in the Wind. If you've watched him, you'll know who I'm on about. What I like about him is he's no nonsense really, and whereas all these American channels, they tend to talk a little bit too much about stuff. And you kind of think, well, just keep your mouth shut type thing. It's none of anybody else's business. But he's not. He kind of doesn't do that kind of stuff. Anyway, if you watch him, you'll know what I mean. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. But I was watching some of these other YouTube channels in the past, and they were talking about Harley Davidsons, right? I ride a Harley, okay, of course, if you watch my channel. And they were talking about, motorcycle clubs, they have to ride Harley Davidsons. And I was like, well, really? Maybe or maybe not. You see, the thing is, in the United States, it's very much Harley Davidson focused in all motorcycling, right? 50-60% of all motorcycles, I believe, are all Harley Davidsons. And whilst other motorcycle brands are gaining market share, it's still very much a Harley Davidson world, especially in certain areas. It's only going to be Harley Davidson. So if you've got a motorcycle club, it might be written down somewhere in some kind of local law or club law, whatever, that you've got to ride a Harley Davidson or ride an American motorcycle. So that might be the case. Whereas in other parts of the world, Harley Davidsons may not even be a thing. So riding a Harley Davidson is not a prerequisite for being in a motorcycle club in different parts of the world. It might mean that you have to ride another type of motorcycle or another brand. It could be anything. So let's just say over here in the UK, okay, you have big American style motorcycle clubs over here, or the ones that originated over there, they're also over here, right? And actually they're all over the world, right? I don't really know anything about them, but I do know this, that those same big American motorcycle clubs over here, they don't all ride Harley Davidsons. It might be written down somewhere in some kind of American bylaw or whatever, local law, to say that they've got to ride a Harley Davidson, but over here they don't. And a lot of that is to do with cost. A lot of that is to do with, the availability of those bikes back in the day. Now, I'm talking about in the past here, many of the motorcycle club members that I've witnessed or I've seen over here didn't ride Harley Davidsons. They rode all sorts of bikes, Japanese bikes, big over here, Japanese bikes, British bikes, European bikes, that kind of thing, but not necessarily Harley Davidsons. Now, of course, people then may build up to buying a Harley Davidson and, you know, riding that American bike and being part of that American club type thing. But it's not necessarily the case. So it might mean in different countries you don't need to ride a Harley Davidson, and also within the same club in different parts of the world there might be no stipulation that you have to ride a Harley Davidson, because I've witnessed it. So why make this video, right? Okay, the reason is I was in my Breaking Bad camper the other day. I went away for a couple of days, and I was on my way back and I saw a couple of motorcycle club bikers riding by, and one was riding a Harley Davidson and he's full, you know, all his patches on and all that sort of stuff. I was like, okay, yeah, fine. And then a few miles down the road, I saw another one with his patches on, but it wasn't riding a Harley Davidson. I think it was an old BMW, in fact. And anyway, so he was riding that, and I thought, well, there you go. It just proves the point that you're in a motorcycle club, and it's an American motorcycle club. I won't mention that because that's not relevant, really. And but it wasn't a Harley Davidson, so there we go. So I thought I'd make the video just talking about that specific point, but really it's a kind of a reflection of YouTube, really, of YouTube land, of a distorted view that you might get from different channels. Okay, so if you watch my channel and you may watch it for Harley Davidson content, I might bring you a different view or a different angle purely because I don't live in the United States. So, you know, I'm British. So, you know, my view is from over here, riding over here, and the things that we do and say are different. You get a lot of the American channels, for example, that might be, you know, I listen to them or I watch them, I think it just totally not my world. It's totally irrelevant. In fact, I have more of an association and more of a kinship, if you like, with a lot of Australian channels, which you know, I watch as well. They're kind of on more of my wavelength. Obviously the British channels, of course. Now, European channels, yeah, you would think, well, they're our next door neighbours, but the problem is it's there's bigger cultural differences within Europe, and also it's a language thing as well. So unless they're speaking in English, I won't be able to understand them, well, for the most part anyway. But yeah, you know, we're going to have similar kinds of riding styles, different appetites, if you know what I mean, all that kind of stuff. We also share a more eclectic view of motorcycle riding. It's not one particular brand, it's lots of different brands of motorcycles all mixed up. Whereas, let's say in the United States, I keep on saying that, it's very much Harley Davidson focused, especially in specific areas. It might only be Harley Davidson. So I wanted to bring that view to you, really, to say all that observation. So just because, you know, you watch a certain YouTube channel, it doesn't mean that what they're saying applies everywhere. Just because you're in a motorcycle club, for example, it doesn't mean you have to ride a Harley Davidson. Some cases it might be, but in other parts of the world it doesn't. What applies in one country may not apply in another. Just because you watch my channel, for example, it doesn't necessarily mean that what I'm saying is applicable to where you are and what you're riding. Because I might be talking about something specific to the UK or something specific to Europe, for example, whereas it might not be relevant. I try and make my content as generalized as possible to, you know, to appeal to lots of different people. But even I acknowledge that, you know, sometimes I'm talking about stuff that's actually not really relevant to people, let's say in France or in Italy or in South Africa, for example, or in China or Argentina or whatever, right? Although I do get quite a bit of a following from Brazil, would you believe, which is a bit odd, but there we go. Anyway, I thought I'd bring that to you. So we're not all the same, and not everybody's the same, and not all channels are the same, and not all people who ride on bikes are the same, and we don't all stick to the same kind of rules in inverted commas or the same kind of standards, if you know what I mean. Anyway, but look at that beautiful view Bit of an overcast morning, which is a bit crappy, but there we go. Anyway, right, and I've got to get back on the heroic Harley because I got a day of toil ahead of me. But I thought I'd bring this to you. As I say, my channel's got nothing to do with motorcycle clubs, as you know if you watch it. There's lots of channels out there who do this kind of stuff, of course. But also, there's one from the UK, so I occasionally watch. I think I like no nonsense talking and no nonsense channels. And this Dibber in the Wind, if you know him, you know him. He kind of talks about this kind of stuff, and it might appeal to you if you're into that kind of thing. Right, anyway, I thought I'd leave that with you. But not all people in motorcycle clubs ride Harley Davidsons, and if you live in this country, you kind of know that. You would know that. Right, catch you again. Ta-da.